Hello, and thank you for buying your Gen 2 4-stroke carburetor. The carburetors are all preset from the factory. All bikes and riding styles are a little different. Let's go over some setup and tuning procedures to help you dial your carburetor in. There's a drag nut on here. This is a knurled nut. So I suggest loosening the nut, pull the choke out. Now you know how far it's supposed to go out. And let it go and see it goes back in. So put a little drag onto it, pull it out, it still goes in. Drag, pull it out, still, drag. Okay, it stays. So now we know it stays out. It's not going to creep in on us when we're trying to start the bike, and it should be hard to push in. Now we're going to show you the cold start method. Basically, we're going to put it full choke, 8 throttle, and just keep it running with the throttle, just small little blurps, for about 15 seconds. It doesn't take long. So we're going to get little blurps with the throttle. As we're doing that, we're going to reach down, shut the choke off, keep giving it little blurps with the throttle for about another minute. That should be enough time to get at least enough heat in the engine that it'll idle properly in the idle circuit. So we're going to go over a cold start procedure with a kickstart bike, a little different from the electric start. We're going to fill our float bowl up. We're going to pull the choke out completely. Make sure it's all the way extended. And then what we're going to do is differently is we're going to kick it through a couple, 3 times. Basically with the throttle closed, kick the bike nice and easy, not trying to start it. You're just basically bringing some fuel into the cylinder, almost like a prime. After you did that, then turn the ignition on, give it about 1/8 to 1/4 throttle, and jump on the starter. It should start within a couple kicks. Most of the time first kick because you already primed it. As the bike starts, run the bike with little blurps to the throttle until about 15 seconds. Keep running it with the throttle. Reach down, close the choke off. Keep the bike running with the throttle, little blips. And now you got about a minute, minute and a half into the engine. It should be warm to touch at that point, and then you should be able to roll off the throttle and should idle at that point. If your bike won't start and there's fuel in the bowl and you're kicking your electric start, it won't start, there's got to be a reason for it. So the best thing to do is take the spark plug out, take a look at it. If it's wet, just change the spark plug. That's the solution for that. If it's dry, then we got to get fuel into the motor. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a simple prime method. This works on all electron carburetors. It's very easy. Take 2 of the vents. I don't care which one it is. Doesn't matter. We plugged 2 of them. Got them plugged. The third one, you're going to blow into it just for one little blast. Doesn't take much. You can actually watch. There's a power jet line on the carburetor. You can watch the fuel shoot up that line. I'm going to go over this side. So I just take this and go, and I watch the fuel shoot up that line. Didn't take much. Now you actually have raw fuel right in the carburetor. At that point, now you actually primed it. Put your ignition on, hold your throttle about 1/4 throttle, and the bike should fire right up. The idle speed screw is used to increase and decrease the idle. It's the big gold screw that's horizontal. It could be on the left or the right side of the carburetor, depending on the model. Turning the screw in raises the idle. Turning it out lowers the idle. Do this in small increments, 1/8 to 1/4 turn. Normally you'll take it and move it 1/8, listen to the engine. Move it 1/8, listen to the engine. Wherever you want to go, up or down. Now we're going to explain how the idle fuel screw works. It's adjusted in 1/8 turn increments. Out is more fuel, in is less fuel. And always when you turn it, you open it and you wait about 5 seconds and listen to the engine RPM. The third thing we're going to talk about is the metering rod, which is inside the carburetor. On the Gen 2 4-stroke carburetor, the meter rod delivers no fuel at idle. It's your main tuning device for instant response and up to half throttle. You've got to remove the 3 screws out of the top of the carburetor, remove the slide out, and this is adjusted in quarter turn increments. If you turn the rod in, it's more fuel. If you turn the rod out, it's less fuel. We're going to explain how the power jet works. This is our third screw on the carburetor. It's the one that goes straight down in the back of the carburetor. Out is more fuel, in is less fuel. And basically this is done an 1/8 to a quarter turn. If you turn it out a quarter of a turn, it'll get a little bit more fuel at wide open. This comes on about 1/2 to 3/4 throttle. So this is all done later on in the tuning, usually the last procedure. Never do any tuning until the bike is at normal operating temperature. The engine must be hot to touch. The idle speed screw and the idle fuel screw are adjusted in tandem. When you use the idle speed screw, and if the idle's low and you want to raise it, you can raise it, yes. As you raise the idle speed screw, it leans the bike out because you're raising the slide, giving it more air but not more fuel. What you need to do is normally go down and compensate for the idle fuel screw, which would be out. So they're done in tandem. In raises the slide, out gives it more fuel. When adjusting these screws, you have roughly about 3/4 of a turn on each screw. 1/2, 3/4. That's about the limit. The reason is if you go more than that in with this screw, the slide is so high it'll start running on the metering rod. Same thing on the fuel screw. Normally it's about a 1/2 turn, but you do have a 3/4 of a turn. So same thing. Rich, 3/4 of a turn. Vice versa, lean, 3/4 of a turn. Adjusting the idle fuel screw, we want to find the limits, lean or rich. What we're going to do is we're going to take the idle fuel screw. I like to start rich first and then lean next. Rich is out, in is lean. As the bike's idling, I'm going to assume it's about 1,500 RPMs. I'm just going to throw a number out there for you. We're listening at 1,500 RPMs, 1/8 of a turn out. What does the engine do? Listen to it. Always wait at least 5 seconds. If the engine goes up, that's fine. Go out another 1/8 of a turn. Wait 5 seconds. What does the engine do? If it goes up, fine. Another 1/8. Oh, all of a sudden it went down. That's too far. That's our limit. Go back into where it was the highest. Now we know our high end limit. Record that. Take a picture or remember where you're at. Now, we're going to find the lean side. As the bike's idling at 1,500, we're going to go in. What does it do? Does it go up or down? Same procedure. In. Does it go up or down? If it's going up, that's fine. Same thing. Keep going in till the engine RPM drops. That's your lower limit. Go back to where it was the highest, and now you've found your parameters of where you're at. If you adjust your idle speed screw, these limits will change a little because the idle speed screw is at one certain position. That means it's letting a certain amount of air through it. So every time you move that more than a quarter turn, you'll affect this. So let's say that we adjusted this as much as a quarter turn. You must go back here and find your limits. The same procedure again. Same thing, if the idle was very high and you went down up to a quarter turn, you must go back and find your limits one more time. After adjusting your idle and your fuel and finding your limits on your fuel, what you want to do is find out where the engine sounds the best. So we'll go back to that 1,500 RPM, which I'm just throwing a number out there again. You're going to go out a little bit and in a little bit. Where does the engine sound the best, the smoothest? You'll hear it. There's a spot that just sounds the best. That will be your middle adjustment where you want to leave it. Now, there's some variables on that. You can be on either side of that. If you get very common with a four-stroke, you get deceleration popping, a lot of banging through the pipe. When you're decelerating, that is indication that it's lean. You got your limits, so you know you can put it on the richer side of the limit. You want to go out about an 1/8 of a turn, even a quarter, almost right before that drops off. That'll give you the most possible fuel at idle. If you're really concerned about fuel mileage, you want high fuel mileage, you can also try staying on the lean side of your adjustment. You want to do is keep going in with your fuel screw in until the engine drops off. Go back out where just before it dropped off. That'll be your leanest one. That'll give you your best fuel mileage. Now, if you get deceleration popping, you're going to have to give it a little more fuel. Now that the bike's warmed up, I'm going to go over the procedure for the idle fuel screw to get the highest idle. We're going to either go lean or rich. wait 5 seconds in between adjustments. I'm going to go out first. I like to go out first all the time. So we're going to go rich first and listen to the engine. I know the engine's running about 1900 right now, which is very good for this bike. 1/8 of a turn at a time. 1/8 weight. I didn't hear any change. 1/8 weight. Small change. 1/8 weight. Definitely big change. Too far. Back in 1/8 of a turn. Wait again. Not enough. In 1/8 of a turn. Coming back up now. In 1/8 of a turn. Higher yet. In 1/8 of a turn. A little lower. In 1/8 of a turn. For sure lower. Back out. Back out. That's where I had the highest idle. And that is about 2,500 right now. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to our idle fuel screw and find the parameter again. I'm going to go in and out also. Too much. Too much. Back to where I was. But now we have to turn the idle down. Sounds pretty good there. Now we must go back and readjust this. Same procedure. I know I went down, so I know what I want to do is go in with this. Idle's going up a little bit. Lower, back out to the middle. If that's not lowest for you, we'll go a little lower. Go back to your idle fuel screw and readjust it one more time. So, because it's so low, I'm going to turn the idle up just a little bit. Quarter turn. Alright, that definitely helps. Instead of leaving it there, what I want to do is I want to go now and do the idle fuel screw and see our parameters again. Out first. Out. Lower, no good. Back in, lower, no good. Okay. I still want my idle higher though. It's only about 1,600. We want to get to about 19. So now I'm going to turn the idle up some more. Another quarter turn. The idle went up. Good thing. Go back to our fuel screw. Out. 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 Up too low there. Back in a little bit. Give it a minute to settle down. I want my idle a little bit higher than that though. It is high 17s, almost 18. I want about 19. So now I'm going to go another, not quite a quarter turn. Now the idle is back to where it should be. Let's check our fuel screw again now. Out first. Out. Oh, lower there. In. Lower there. Back out to where it was the highest. Right about there. All you did is raise the idle, gave it more fuel. We have the carburetor all installed, and we started the bike up. I'm assuming it didn't run for you, and you turned all the adjustments, and everything's out of whack. So I'm going to turn this idle all the way over here and take the fuel screw and put it all out there, and no idea. I'm sure the bike probably won't idle right now or even start. So we got to get back to our stock settings. It's always on the paperwork when you get it with it. Right on the carburetor comes and shows exactly what the carb is set at. Idle fuel screw is set at 1 1/8. So we're going to take this fuel screw, and this is a gentle operation. Screw it in till you feel it seated. Don't crank on it, just done, seated. 1/2, 1, 1 1/8. The idle screw, 2 1/8 out. Okay, all the way in till you feel it seat. Another thing, very lightly. Okay, we know it's seated there. 1/2, 1, 1 1/2, 2, 2 1/8, 2 1/8, 1 1/8. The bike should start. Now you saw me play around the screws; they were all out. Let's just see what we got. Back to stock setting. If nothing else works, this will be the most advanced procedure to get your bike dialed in. So we're going to start from scratch and show you a different method. You're going to take your idle screw and you're going to screw it all the way in to the stop. Now, let's take that idle screw and turn it out 1/2 of a turn. Now, we're going to take the fuel screw, turn in all the way till it stops, turn it out 1 1/2 turns. We're going to start the bike up and we're going to work backwards with this. The bike's going to start up, the idle's going to be very high because we have the idle screw so far in. We're going to start rolling the idle back and we're going to tune the fuel screw at the same time. The fuel screw goes in 1/8 of a turn increments, out or in. Just like the previous videos, we're going to find out where it runs the best and at highest idle. As the idle goes up, we're going to keep turning the idle down. Adjust the fuel screw, the idle will go up. Turn the idle down. Keep going until you get down to our normal idle speed. Idle is very high. Start with turning the idle down first. Close to where it should be idling, but now do your fuel screw. In with the fuel screw first. Idle goes up. Back down with the idle screw. Back in with the fuel screw. Keep going in until you get your highest idle. Oh, dropping off. Back out. Now try out. Drops off, back in. Drops off, back to where it was the highest point. Turn the idle down a little bit more. Recheck your fuel screw. In first. Drop off. Out. Drop off, back to where it was the highest point, and you're done. Almost 100% of the time, it needs more fuel to start. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this fuel screw, even though we have it set it back to 1 1/8, I'm just going to take this fuel screw and turn it out a whole 1/2 a turn. What does that do? That gives it a lot more fuel at idle, but it'll help the bike start. We can get the bike running, it'll idle low, but at least it gets it running, and then we can tune from there. Okay, start it up, idling low. We're just going to go back, and I'm going to pretend I don't know how much I turn it. I'm going to try and see where the parameters are. So we're going to go in, wait, getting better, in, getting better, in, seems like a little bit, and again, dropped off. Go back to where it was the highest. So we've been going over all our adjustments. our idle fuel, our idle, and the power jet. We're going to do one last thing called the roll-up test. This is really fine tuning adjustments and it's advanced tuning. Let's check where our idle is right now. We left off at 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2. On this one right now it's at 2. So we changed it a little bit. That's fine. 1, 1.5, 2. So what we're going to do is a thing called a roll-up test. We're going to let the bike idle. I'm going to roll this up and we're going to listen to the transition from the idle fuel circuit to the metering rod. There's a transition there and it should be smooth. Higher. Oh, the engine RPM's lower. Almost stalling. More and more and more. Oh, there's the rod. Alright, so that's no good. So we went in and we started turning it up and it started going up and then all of a sudden the engine RPM went down. And then it almost stalled and then it went to the rod. That's an indication that the metering rod is too lean and it has to be richened up. We're going to give the rod more fuel. We're going to take the 3 screws out of the top of the carburetor, pull the slide out, turn the rod in 1/4 of a turn, and put it back in and see what it does. Pull the slide out. And now we're going to richen the rod up. Take the tool from Lectron, makes it convenient to turn it. Turn in 1/4 of a turn. But now the flat side must be facing towards the engine. Use your fingers, push in, spin the rod back around, make sure the flat side is facing towards the engine like it was. Your adjustment is done. If you do not have this tool, you can always use a pair of pliers and a rag so you don't want to damage the metering rod. So I'll take and wrap the rod around there, grab it with pliers, do the same thing. Adjust the rod, put your thing down, done. Always 1/4 turn increments and then push up, bring it back around so your flat spot is facing towards the engine again. To our transition, now we'll slowly roll it up and listen to the engine. To the rod, then back down again. Back to where it was. That's adjusted perfect right now. Now we know the metering rod is perfect. Now that you've adjusted your metering rod, we want to make sure after we start the bike up, it still is at the same fuel setting with our idle. Sometimes it'll affect it just a little bit, so we always want to check that. So after we adjust the metering rod, we're going to go over our fuel setting again. Drop off. In, drop off. Back out to where it was. So we're pretty much back to where it was. Normally it doesn't affect it, but it's always a good thing to check that. The roll-up test is to check to see if the metering rod is adjusted properly and it's not too lean. If your bike at slow speeds is stuttering, or if you're getting poor fuel economy and you want to try leaning the rod out, lean it out 1/4 of a turn. After you do that, you must go back and check your roll-up test to make sure it functions properly.